Hello and welcome to another amazing segment of Sound Mind here on Hope TV. My name is Bryant Collier, your host, and I hope you're having an amazing day. Listen, thank you so much for being so supportive of Hope TV and more specifically, Sound Mind. Each week you come in, you share it with your friends and family, and we are grateful to you. On behalf of our executive producer, Dr. E. Dewey Smith, and our team, thank you so much for your investment. Now, I need you to do what we always do. Get in the comments, tell me where you're watching from. Tell me maybe a little bit about yourself so we can say hello to you. In addition to that, I need you to tag someone. We're going to continue our conversation that we started before with Dr. D. Monique. We're going to be revisiting that today. Dr. D. Monique, if you didn't catch her the last time, make sure you go back and watch that. You can watch it on YouTube, Apple TV, Roku TV, Facebook. But Dr. D. Monique has been in this work for over 20 years. She currently right now serves as the liaison for homelessness for Bibb County School District. But in addition to that, she is a licensed therapist, and she has been putting in the work to help remove the stigma in the faith-based African-American community that you don't need therapy. She actually says you need therapy and Jesus. So I would like to bring my sister, my friend, Dr. D. Monique, back to join us again. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
All right. Now, I'm going to get in trouble because the last time we talked, I did not mention my brother, Steve. And so I want to make sure I acknowledge Principal Stephen Jones, my big bro, and my niece, Kennedy, your husband. How long have you been married to Steve now?
Almost 16 years.
16 years. Wow. Woo. And that would make Kennedy how old now?
13.
Jesus. Woo! Anyway, we're getting older. So I want to jump right into our conversation.
I said, and she'll be driving your car soon.
The devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. So I want to jump back where we were the last time. We ended our conversation talking about ways we can protect this next generation as moms, dads, aunties, uncles, godparents, how we can protect this next generation from experiencing some of the trauma that we experienced growing up. Because culturally, there's some stuff that we just do. Statements like, you better not go in this store and touch nothing or I'm going to beat you when you get out. Or watching relationships and watching your mom or dad bring in different relationships or even divorce. How can we protect them from experiencing trauma?
Okay, so let me start by saying every child at this point has experienced some type of trauma. And so now the question is, why do you say that? Well, look at this. So children are accustomed to going to school 9 months a year. This year, however, their school year was cut due to a deadly virus that no one really knew the origin of it, how it came about. It just kind of came, and then life as they knew it ended. School ended. Seeing friends every day, graduations, all of these things abruptly ended. In addition, so children are wondering, am I going to get it? Am my parents going to get it? What's going on with it? And so in addition to that, these same kids that are dealing with that are dealing with watching people die at the hands of people that are supposed to protect them. So even as children, when we have career days at school, people come, the police come and all these people come and to serve and protect and all these things. So growing up, the mindset that they had public service officials was good people help protect, and not to say all of them are bad, but now something different is playing out. And now children that we didn't grow up in the 60s, we never saw marches and riots and looting. So now these kids that have no idea what that is other than hearing about it in history are experiencing all of these things. That's trauma. Because now the world is predictably unpredictable. We don't know what's next. No one knows what's next. Even when my daughter asked, are we going back to school in August? Because we don't know. So that's a form of trauma. And so it's imperative that uncles, aunts, cousins, moms, dad, you check in with your child to see how they're doing with all of this. I call it a pulse check. You need to make sure that they are okay, because there are a lot of kids that are not okay because there are so many holes and gaps. And social media, and Facebook and Instagram and all of those places, there are influx of information, but a lot of the information is not child sensitive information. However, our children have access to.
So help us. What are some leading questions or things you can say when engaging your child? And I know it's going to be different based on their age, but if you're talking to a middle schooler or a teenager, what are some things that you can say to kind of lead into those conversations?
The first thing to say is, what is it that you know? With everything that's going on, and I just asked my daughter, she's 13, what is it that you know about coronavirus? Because the first thing you want to do is dispel any myths or dispel any false information. So what is it that you know? And that's a good talking point, because they're telling you from their age, even if it's a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, 15-year-old, what they know. What is it that you know about the recent, killings? My daughter knew way more than I thought she knew. She knew names, she knew places. She even knew some of the attorneys that were working, because of course she's Googling the attorneys. She knew who the attorneys were that were working on different cases and where things had taken place. So the first thing is to ask, what do you know? And clear up any misconceptions. And the biggest question to ask is simple. How do you feel about that? Mm-hmm. Because now I'm getting your thoughts. I'm seeing that's that pulse check. I'm seeing where you are with things. And so, my daughter was like, well, it makes me sad. And I said, well, what makes you sad? She was like, that these parents have lost their kids, or that these husbands have lost these wives have lost their husbands, and different things like that, even with school. Well, how do you feel about that? My child is an only child, so school becomes her social network. That's where her friends are. And so then, some kids in that same situation can feel isolated because you're not going to friends' houses, you're not participating in cheer and dance and all of those things. So what you don't want is for depression to set in and you not even know that it's setting in, because you're just not asking those questions.
That's good. So at what point do I need to think about or consider bringing someone in professional to talk with my child?
I would say based off the answers and based off you listen at what they say, but you also hear what they don't say. You watch what they do and you watch what they don't do. I tell parents all the time, it's just as important to see what they're not doing as what they are doing. So if your child is one that always early and that go-getter that's always doing things and finding something new to do, and they're just laying around. Now, we're not talking about, I call it the quarantine late, where the kids aren't in school and they just like to sleep late and watch TV late. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying where they just don't have that drive to do anything. It's just, everything is just kind of blah. Well, what you want to do today? Nothing. What you nothing? I'm okay. I'm all right. That kind of thing. So you watch what they're doing, but you watch what they're not doing. If your child is a tech person, and I call my child a techie, only that's my code for she stays on her phone all the time. If I don't see her with that iPad, exactly. If I don't see her with that iPad, that cell phone, watching a YouTube video, learning something new, that's her thing. I think she's going to build a house.
Recording a new video. Recording a new video.
A TikToker, and you don't see them with that phone dancing and TikToking all over the place, then that means something is going on that's shifting who they are, the core of who they are. And those are things that you need to look into.
That's thank you so much for that, Dr. Demonique. I think it's important because there may be somebody watching right now, you've been noticing something and you quite didn't know how to go into that conversation. And I think you just helped a large majority of our audience with that. So I want to kind of curtail the conversation a little bit. So we have talked about how we're able to overcome from past traumas in the last episode that led us into practices that we have, and now even in the conversation of protecting this current generation and how we can monitor the amount of traumas they experience. They're going to experience it. They're experiencing it right now, but limiting that amount in our power. I want to move the conversation now to the adults. So we grow up in these families and we've had these traumas. We've had sibling rivalries. We've watched family altercations. Some of us have been violated by family members. Some of us have been victimized by family members. But we have to go to these functions. We have to go to birthday parties. We have to go to Christmas dinner. We have to go to Thanksgiving. And God forbid, we got to go to the same church too. So how do I interact with a family that doesn't look like the Brady Bunch? How do I work on those relationships? Because I'll be honest with you, there's a part of me, that whole Friendsgiving is big for me because I separate sometimes from my family. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. If I can get an amen in the comments so I don't feel by myself. Dr. D. Monique, can you shed some light into how we're able to live, or even maybe in a healthy way, remove ourselves from family obligations when we've experienced trauma?
Well, the first thing I'd say is, to thine own self be true. And you have to know you.
Come on.
I know me. So the first thing is I have to identify that, Uncle Sammy is a trigger, or this person is a trigger, or these events are triggers. And then once you identify, it's the same as with anything else. I tell people all the time, therapy is work, but it's not this mind blowing. We don't have these magic potions and lotions and, antidotes and things. It's practical things to help get you through. So the thing is, you have to know your limit. Just like with drinking, you know how many drinks, and I'm just being honest, one glass of wine, you sleep some. So it probably is not ideal for you to go to the family function and decide you're going to try Ciroc today. That's not a good idea. So what I'm saying is not a good idea. So we all know about our limit when it comes to dealing with certain people and interacting with family. And then the other thing is be protective. I can be around my family as a whole and just hey and bow with some people and just kind of move around it. So you have to learn yourself enough to know how to navigate those spaces. For some of us, there's just some places you're just not going to be able to go. And that's okay. And you have to be okay with being okay with not being there. And that's the thing. Sometimes we feel to show up to everything, but it takes us a week from that one dinner. Well, there's just some places you just can't go. And I tell everybody, if use this excuse, well, it ain't you, it's me. It ain't you, it's me. I have to protect my peace at all costs. I have to protect my mental health. And so if being around you is going to compromise me, I'm going to choose me over you every time.
Come on. And that's not selfishness. It's self-preservation.
Self-preservation. If I have to choose your mental health over my mental health, because at the end of the day, when I leave that Christmas party, when I leave the dinner, the only person that I have to take with me is me. So because I have to take me with me, I'm going to make sure that I'm okay. And so sometimes you have to be okay with stepping back for a while until you can get yourself together enough to be able to engage. Some people you have to take in small doses, meaning I can talk to you about 10 minutes on the phone before I know it's going to go left. So at about 9 minutes and 54 seconds, I'm kind of on the may the Lord watch between me and thee while I'm already ready for the benediction. I'm rolling it out. Already rolling the benediction out, because I know that once we get to a certain place, it's going to go left. But again, all of that comes as an awareness of knowing your triggers. Some homes are triggers. If you experienced a lot of trauma in a particular home, going back to the family house may not necessarily be where everybody else wants to go. Well, that's a place of trauma for you. So you don't see that as an exciting place to be. So it may be that I can't go back to the family house for the dinner. I can meet you somewhere else and I can do other things. But the biggest thing is, doing the work, identifying the triggers, knowing you enough to know what you can and can't do, and then respecting and honoring yourself enough to say, this is just something I can't do.
That's really good. Can you walk us through, you made a statement, you said, I go to the function, and when I leave the function, it takes me a week to recover from a shower function. Can you walk us through what it feels like to even know you? Because some people may not know that's them recovering from something. Can you walk us through what that feeling is?
So if you were the awkward person in the family, and when I say awkward in the sense of, when I was growing up, I was really, really tiny. My twin and I, we had big heads and little bodies, and people would, Lord, what I wouldn't give for the little body. But anyway, I digress. But, growing up, people, oh, y'all so skinny, y'all so skinny, y'all so skinny. Now that didn't affect me, and it didn't affect my twin, but other people grew up with people saying, oh, you just like your daddy, you just like this person and this. And so then when they go around those people, they're reminded of all of, oh, you remember how little she is? Oh, she was this, she was that, he was this, he was that. And if you haven't been healed from those things, you'll walk away feeling some kind of way about yourself based off all those things, because what happens, that 30-year-old you becomes the 4-year-old you once you enter that environment. Because if I didn't 4-year-old me, I'm just the 30-year-old shell, but the 4-year-old me is still there. So once I get in that environment, the 30-year-old body is present, but the 40-year-old soul and spirit and mind shows up. And so because if I did the work, the 30-year-old me can say and respond appropriately. But the 4-year-old me that didn't have a response, I show back up in the 30-year-old body and I'm still shrinking and don't have the response because I didn't heal that 4-year-old.
I need to do an altar call right now for the 4-year-olds, the 11-year-old yous, the 15-year-old yous, the 20-year-old yous, because that's in us. And I don't think we like to face that part of us, but there's a person, I'll be honest with you. I experienced a trauma in my life around 11 or 12. It was something small that seemed small to people, but for me, it was still small. So like I go, when in certain situations, I go right back to that space. And so I had to go with my therapist, like, why is this happening? And she said the same thing. She said, you've got to deal with what happened or leave that space. So that's going to bring, because I'm going to get in trouble for this. And, we get in trouble sometimes when we talk. So I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Sometimes we make decisions that we don't want to work things out. So in church, we hear about forgiveness a lot. Forgive. I'm not saying not to forgive, but can you walk us through first the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation and how the two affect us mentally and emotionally?
So a great philosopher, Tupac, once said, there are instances where I still want a person to eat, just not at my table. So that's forgiveness. I want to see you win. I'm just not coming to the game to watch it. You see what I'm saying? So
bless us, Bishop Tupac. Bless us, Bishop.
So forgiveness, I'm okay. And I'm not going to say I'm okay with what happened. I've come to terms with what happened. Mm-hmm. And I've come to terms with it. I've forgiven you. I've forgiven myself. But I'm making a choice not to put myself in a situation where I'm interacting and dealing with you. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times we think that people haven't forgiven because, well, if you still can't speak to the person, no, it's a difference between me can't do something, not. See, it's a knowing gap and a doing gap. In this instance, forgiveness looks like I've reconciled or I've come to terms with what happened, but I'm making a willful choice not to place myself in a situation with you. And I can see you and say hello and keep moving. And I have decided for me, I don't want to interact with you. And that's okay. You have to be okay. Yeah, of course. And being okay with saying no.
Now, you know, especially within our community, we believe, and I'm just going to be honest and say this is even with our family. Oh, yeah, that's just who we are. You'll be okay. That's not okay.
We make excuses for poor behavior. What we say is, that's just him. Well, just because it's just you, that doesn't, see, just you and just right are two different things. So just because it's just you, that doesn't mean it's just right.
I want to get up and run right now. If this is good to y'all, make sure y'all are messaging in the comments. I'm just having a good conversation with my sister right now. I forgot we're even here on this live right now. Help us again. Just because
it's just you, that doesn't mean it's just right. And so what happens as a community of people, even dealing with children, you know, you have that cusses like a drunk sailor on shore leave and cusses everybody out. Well, for some kids, they didn't care. That didn't bother them. But for you, every time she would curse you, you just kind of felt some kind of way, you know. And so, well, she cussed at everybody. Well, just because she cussed at everybody, that doesn't mean that everybody likes her curse, and it may not affect everybody the same way. So as a child, you grew up feeling degraded every time somebody cursed. And when she would make, you know, curse and do those things, but everybody else explained it away as, oh, she just talked like that. She always cuss. She cuss everybody. Well, just because that's her, that doesn't mean it's just right. So at some point, as an adult, to reconcile that, you have to have what I call that courageous conversation to say, hey, auntie, you know, when she starts to, because, you know, can you please not do that? And growing up, when you did that, it kind of made me feel some type of way. I felt like, you know, worthless really when you would curse and say those type of things. And even now, I still feel some type of way when you say that. Now, what happens, you've done your part. Now you've left the responsibility to the other person to do what they need to do. Course correct. That's what I call it, course correct. Now, if they make a choice not to course correct, now I can't make you course correct, but what I can do is chart a different course for myself.
Right. Now, I'm going to say something because I'm going to say this and I'm just going to put it out there. What about when it's your parents?
Yeah. All parents don't get it all right all of the time. And so even with parents, you have to be able, again, that 3-year-old you that didn't have birthday parties, that 11-year-old you, or whatever the situation, or if you had a parent that was an absentee parent that told you lies about the things that they would do but never followed through with them. At some point, you have to be able to tell that parent, you know, we're adversarial and we don't, because, you know, you see sometimes that people that just don't get along with their parents, they're always arguing with them. It seems like they're always into it. Well, it was the 10-year-old you that didn't believe anything they said because they lied about the things that they would do and it never came through. So now the adult, when they talk, as soon as they open their mouth, what you said that, but you got to recognize, I don't have faith in anything you say because you lied to me so much growing up, and be able to say, I don't trust what you say because of these things. And that's why we have such an adversarial relationship, such a back and forth, because I'm still harboring that anger from 11 when I sat on the step and waited for you for 45 minutes and you never showed up. I'm still waiting for that birthday card in the mail, and I'm meeting the mailman every day for over a month after my birthday passed because you told me that you mailed it. I'm still dealing with those things that you never got right. And when I said got right, you never acknowledged that you did those things. Because for some adults now that dealt with childhood trauma, it's simple as you acknowledging, you know what, I did say those things. I did lie and say
Mhm.
I was going to pick you up. I did say we were going to Disney, and I was absent for 5 years after that. To acknowledge that the
Mhm.
pain is real. But to be honest, there's going to be some people that don't acknowledge that the pain is real. And they feel like you made a
Mhm.
reference segment, with the being hard on kids or whatever. I feel like parents do the best they can with what they know.
Mhm. That's good.
But
So, oh, okay. So I want to give you a scenario, and as a licensed therapist, kind of help walk through this. So, let's say I'm an individual. I'll use me for instance. I'm 29, and there is something that negatively affected me when I was 13, 14. I've never
mhm.
talked about it, but every time I go into these social settings with my family, around my family, I become that 13-year-old Brian again because I'm still reliving that. Is it too late for me to go and address that with my family? And should I expect understanding from them to be understanding or forgiveness to apologize? What's healthy expectations in that experience?
Well, I'll say this, there should be no expectations, because you don't get let down when you don't have expectations. And so we put expectations on others' behavior, and then we're let down and disappointed and upset when they don't deliver. So the only expectation I have is of me, because I know
Mm-hmm.
me. I can expect for
Mm-hmm.
me to do the work that I need to do, but I don't have any expectations of others as it relates to that inner work. So you think of it in terms of a
Mm-hmm.
mailman. He doesn't know if he's bringing you a bill or a check. His job is just to drop it off. He rides past your mailbox. He doesn't even care if you get the mail out. That's not his job. His job is just to deliver it. So in situations when you're dealing with family, you look at, or anyone with that matter, with unresolved trauma or issues, you're the mail carrier. I'm dropping it off. If you open it and receive it, that's one thing. If you leave it in the box and never choose to take it out, but I did my job, and my job was just to drop it off. And that's how you approach the situation. And so we want people to be forgiving. We want them to be understanding. We want them to be accepting. But the reality is that may not be the case. But your
Mm-hmm.
work comes from you doing your work, not the end result of what their work is, because that's their own inner work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part they have to do.
Mm-hmm. Whew. I don't know about y'all, but this has been really good. I'm so grateful. Our time has run out again, as always. It gets really good in these conversations. Dr. D. Monique, can you share some final thoughts with us as we approach trying to things out with our families? Because none of us have a perfect family, and if you have a perfect family, don't invite me over because I don't know what to do with that. But all of us have our family issues and circumstances, and they're each different. Can you give us some overall advice about how to work through even current family situations that we might be experiencing?
So, first to understand and then be understood. Do your work. Seek to understand and then to be understood. Do the work that you need to do. Process the things that you need to process. Come to terms with the things that you need to come to terms with. And then look outward for sharing those things. And then what I say is inviting others in to that space. So that's all that you can do. Do your work.
Do your work. Do your work. Dr. D. Monique, how can we get in contact with you if we want to know more and possibly reach out to you for counseling sessions?
On all platforms at Dr. D. Monique. That's any platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even my website, Dr. D. Monique. It has been a pleasure as always.
Thanks so
And
much,
again,
Dr. D.
do
Monique.
your work.
Thank you so much. I love you, sister. She's my sister, y'all. I love you so much. Send
Love
my
you
love to the
more.
family and to you all, my Hope TV Sound Mind family. Thank you so much for tuning in. Listen, I hope this has been helpful. And I want to end this segment just saying to you, forgive yourself. I don't know what 4-year-old you, 13-year-old you, 18-year-old, 33-year-old you that experienced a trauma. And now in certain situations, you go back to that. That little person, that adult needs to heal. Do the work like Dr. D. Monique said. There is some great in you, and you don't want the baggage holding you back from achieving what you need to achieve. I'm a personal witness of it. You have to face those traumas, and it's hard work, but you'll be better on the other side. Well, until our next time, thank you so much for tuning into another amazing segment of Sound Mind. And until next time, be well and keep your heart and mind in safe care.